MJ, thanks very much. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman John Garamendi of California. Congressman, thanks very much for coming in.
Good to be here.
If Stormy Daniels was physically threatened, as this allegation has now come forward, by someone close to the president in order to try to cover up this affair, well, that would be a very serious matter. Should there be, in your opinion, a criminal investigation?
I just don't know. I mean, this whole thing is just spinning out of control. We've got the President of the United States in a situation where his entire White House is falling apart. And just yesterday, we learned that Russia is hacking into our essential utilities, nuclear power plants, on and on and on. This presidency is a very serious security threat through the United States. And if that security threat goes to these women, it's just one more thing that ought to say it's time to get this guy out of there.
Well, should Congress investigate, do something, if there were, in fact, physical threats against this woman?
The first place to go is the district attorney in Los Angeles, if that's where the threat took place. And then we'll see where it goes. It goes beyond that. If there is something beyond that, then yes, absolutely. That becomes one of the things that will be on the impeachment, if it in fact happened.
Now, when you say get this guy out of there, I mean, those are strong words.
Those are very strong words.
Tell me what you're referring to.
Well, I've had it with this president. We have a situation in which he has been 1 year not pushing back against Putin and Russia. During that entire year, Russia has not only continued to hack our election processes, but it's also hacking into gaining control of nuclear power plants, water systems, sanitation systems, aviation systems. That is an act of war. Nothing less than that.
The President of Homeland Security has now acknowledged, has now said that the Russians are trying to get into those systems.
This isn't me talking. This is from the Secretary of the Homeland Security and the Department of Energy. We have within the Department of Defense a thing called Cyber Command. It is their job to defend and to push back. Have they been given orders by the president to do what they are capable of doing, to push back against Russia, to put Russia back on their heels? They are threatening the very lives of America, to say nothing of our economy. And this president has said not one word about it.
You're on the Armed Services Committee.
I am.
Have there been orders to the U.S. Cyber Command to go forward and deal with this?
We don't know. We need to ask that question. We need to bring them in and say, has the president told you to defend this nation, to push back against Putin and Russia? If not, that's a clear dereliction of the constitutional responsibility of the President of the United States.
Well, you want him to be impeached? Is that what you're saying?
It would be an article of impeachment if he hasn't done what he can do to protect the very essential elements of this nation, our power grids, our water systems, our nuclear energy plants. If he's not willing to protect them, yes, that is an article of impeachment. Will it amount to that? It's one more thing on top of all this other stuff.
And let me wrap up this Stormy Daniels issue. If there were, the lawyer says there were allegations made while Donald Trump was serving as president of the United States against Stormy Daniels, threats. What kind of threats? We don't know. He's not speculating. He's not suggesting what kind of threats. But this raises further questions of, what, if anything, should be done about that?
Well, certainly it's a subject of investigation. I said, first of all, let's get the facts. It's an issue for the district attorney and probably in Los Angeles, if that's where the effects took place. If there is something here, then yes, there ought to be an investigation. But do not count on the House of Representatives to do their job. They have completely abandoned the people of America by not continuing the investigation into what this president did, what his team did, what happened during the election, and what other kinds of things are out there with regard to Putin, Trump, and Russia.
You're talking about the Republican majority in the House Intelligence Committee, but are you saying all Republicans in the House of Representatives have abandoned their responsibilities?
I don't see one of them standing up and saying, we need to know. We need to know what happened so that we can put in place laws and programs to protect this nation's democracy. And now we have these cyber attacks. I don't hear from them. Where is the Speaker of the House of Representatives? You think this thing shut down without his permission? No, no. He allowed it or caused it to shut down. He is right there. It is his job, as it is mine, to protect this nation.
So you're suggesting that the Russians are engaged in these cyber attacks against power grids, whatever, nuclear power plants, that they're threatening to do so?
I'm not suggesting. This comes from the Secretary of Homeland Defense and also from the Department of Energy.
We have a full report on that coming up, but what should the U.S. do about that?
We must do two things. First of all, put in place the defensive mechanisms that we have at hand. That's what Cyber Command is in the Department of Defense is supposed to be doing. Secondly, we must push back. Sanctions are good, but we can take other actions. We can make it very clear to Russia, you have messed with us, we're not taking it, and here's what's going to happen to you. Tomorrow morning, here's what it'll be.
Strong words. What about General McMaster? He's supposedly now on his way out as the president's national security advisor. Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not. I want to know who's going to replace him. McMaster
the speculation is John Bolton, the former U.S. ambassador to the UN during the Bush administration.
One of the neocons that got us into the Iraq war. There's a great idea. No way.
So you would...
No, I don't think so.
You have confidence in McMaster?
I have certainly more confidence in him than I do in Bolton because I know what Bolton did to this country in the early 2000s. Well, he took us together with others.
President Bush and Vice President Cheney, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld. He later became the U.S. ambassador.
But he was part of those neocons in the early 2000 that were part of guiding us into the Iraq war.
He supported the war in Iraq.
He certainly did.
And on that, he disagrees with the president. President Trump says that was a disaster. The U.S. wasted trillions of dollars. On that, you agree with Donald Trump.
I do find agreement in places with him, but that was long before he became president and became commander-in-chief of the United States military.
One final question before I let you go. The whole notion of the turmoil that's going on in the White House right now, this is happening on the eve, potentially, of the president sitting down with Kim Jong-un of North Korea and all sorts of other tense issues right now, Russia specifically, what's happening in the Middle East and Syria, with Iran. This seems like a pretty chaotic situation when there are so many national security issues at stake.
Precisely so. It is the chaos of the White House. It is the inability of this president to be consistent over time that puts us at extraordinary risk and extraordinary danger. The negotiations, yes, we ought to be negotiating with North Korea. The president at those negotiating tables, take a deep breath and pray.
You're worried about that?
You bet I'm worried about it.
When he sits down with Kim Jong-un.
Because he's so inconsistent.
Yeah.
You have no idea what he's going to say. He's probably not going to be prepared. He doesn't seem to want to take serious briefings from serious people that understands. There is no ambassador in South Korea. There is no assistant secretary for the Far East in the State Department. The State Department's in chaos. This entire administration is not only in chaos, but it is extraordinarily dangerous. The consistency, the objectivity, the planning that is necessary for the strongest nation in the world to be secure and safe for the rest of the world, not only ourselves, isn't happening.
Congressman Garamendi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, the White House says it takes seriously the safety of everyone after the attorney for the porn star Stormy Daniels says she was physically threatened to keep silent about her alleged